It's officially 6 o'clock. Time for the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees.
Ms. Orich.
Here.
Mr. Runger.
Here.
Mr. Waller.
Here.
Okay.
Board, I would request a motion that we go into executive session in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G1, to discuss the dismissal or demotion of employees, in accordance with G3, to discuss pending or imminent litigation, and in accordance with G4, to discuss collective bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation.
Mr. Weckbeck, I'd also like to add to that we invite Mr. Baker to the to that.
Yes, and we will potentially be joined by Jared Allig and his attorney, Nero, as well.
Okay. I'll motion for that is stated.
I'll second it.
Ms. Orich.
Yes.
Mr. Runger.
Yes.
Mr. Waller.
Yes.
Okay, we will be back at 7. Okay, it's officially 7 o'clock. A time for the regular Board of Trustees meeting on October 24th, 2023.
Ms. Orich.
Here.
Mr. Runger.
Here.
Mr. Waller.
Here.
Is there anything to report for executive session?
Yes. Despite not properly filing an appeal to his termination under Colerain Policy 1.14, Mr. Allig was provided an opportunity today to appear and explain to the trustees in executive session why he should not have been recently terminated without cause. He and his attorney failed to timely appear for that opportunity and for executive session at 6 p.m. on today's date. Thus, Mr. Allig has chosen not to participate in this hearing, and given that no hearing occurred under Colerain Policy 1.14 and no explanation was provided to the trustees by Mr. Allig, this appeal shall be deemed moot and or denied. Thank you.
Okay. Then let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And for our moment of silence or meditation, I would like everybody in this room to please pray for peace and human dignity to prevail with the wars that we have going on across this world. Thank you. Okay.
Madam President,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda as provided and add, under presentations, add C, Station 26, project update.
I second the motion that we would amend the agenda for that item.
Ms. Orich.
Yes.
Mr. Runger.
Yes.
Mr. Waller.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Mr. Baker, do you want to have approval of minutes?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Board. I have 2 sets of minutes for your approval tonight. First are the minutes from the special meeting held on October 10th, 2023.
I motion that we approve the minutes from the special meeting held on October 10th, 2023.
I'll second that.
Any discussions?
None from me.
None.
Ms. Orich.
Yes.
Mr. Runger.
Yes.
Mr. Waller.
Yes.
Thank you. Secondly, I have the meeting from the same date, October 10th, 2023, of the regular minutes of the Board of Trustees.
I'll motion to approve those minutes as provided in the board packet.
I will second it.
Any discussions?
None.
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 Ms. Orich.
Yes.
Mr. Runger.
Yes.
Mr. Waller.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next on the agenda are presentations. The first presentation is a proclamation recognizing Diwali in Colerain Township. I believe we have a few members of our community here. If Tara and some of your friends would like to approach the podium for this presentation, and we've got a proclamation that I would ask the trustees to read into the record and motion on.
Are you, huh? Okay, I didn't know if you want to come. Okay. The proclamation recognizing Diwali in Colerain Township, November 12th, 2023. Be it proclaimed by the Township Trustees of Colerain Township that whereas as the Hindu American Foundation and over 1 billion Hindu worldwide observe the festival of Diwali, the Festival of Lights, And whereas recognizing the historical significance of Diwali, the U.S. Congress passed a resolution in 2007 to celebrate this day of significance, which has been a part of official White House celebrations since 2007. And whereas Diwali renews the commitment to uphold the values of truth, non-harm, and charitable giving and community service. And whereas Diwali is a time to recognize the light in our lives that manifests itself in the form of knowledge, peace, compassion, and well-being. And whereas there is a sizable population of Hindus that have made Colerain their home, many of whom originate from Bhutan, Nepal, and India. And whereas Colerain wishes to recognize all those with a Hindu American heritage and proudly resolved to celebrate Diwali every year, be it proclaimed that Colerain Township Board of Trustees does hereby recognize November 12, 2023, Diwali in Colerain Township and supports its message of the victory of good over evil, which resonates with the American spirit.
A motion to approve the proclamation.
I will second it.
Any discussions? Yeah, that's a good discussion. Everybody should live by this.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. And if you guys want to, yep.
Helen, do you want to give a picture? You need to give this? You want to come down and give it to him? Are you going to get up and give it?
Thank you for coming out tonight.
Sure, absolutely.
No, you guys are good. Yep.
So I tried to find some candles. I understand candles are pivotal to Diwali. Right? Candles? Yeah, that's right.
Matt, you want to stand back here?
Okay. Yeah.
November 12th we'll do it. Yeah, okay. Do we stand up behind? Yeah. November 14th, maybe. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
We're going to sign that, and then we'll give it back to you, okay? We'll all sign it right now, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Board. The next item, I will ask Chief Ed Cordy to come to the dais to introduce.
Good evening, Board.
Evening.
Good evening.
Give you a second there to get your signatures in.
Okay. Want to make sure we can
Tonight I have a special retirement proclamation for Officer Stephen Carwish. Steve, you want to come up here with me? Just a little short bio about Steve. Won't go into too much detail. We have a couple proclamations that the board will be reading here momentarily. But Steve started with the police department in May 3rd of 1992, which is before quite a few of our police officers, to be honest. Steve, 31 and a half years on patrol. 20 of those years, he was the senior officer on his squad. Steve has worked for 5 police chiefs for Colerain Township. So if the board would like to continue with the proclamation.
Yeah, I just gave it to Dan.
Sure. Proclamation for Police Officer Stephen B. Carwish for his years of dedicated service to Colerain Township, Ohio. Whereas Police Officer Stephen B. Carwish was hired on May 3rd of 1992 as an employee of the Colerain Township Police, and whereas Police Officer Stephen Carwish has demonstrated professionalism, allegiance, service, commitment, and excellence through his contributions as a police officer, leader, mentor, colleague, and friend during his tenure with the department, and whereas Police Officer Stephen B. Carwish retires on October 31st, 2023, after 31 and a half years of commendable dedication as a police officer to the Colerain Township community. Therefore, be it resolved that the Colerain Township Board of Trustees recognizes Police Officer Stephen B. Carwish as an outstanding employee and that he has contributed greatly to our community during his long tenure of public service. Be it further resolved that in recognition of all that Police Officer Stephen B. Carwish has done for Colerain Township, the Colerain Township Board of Trustees hereby proclaim Tuesday, October 31st, 2023, as a special day of recognition for Steve Carwish to acknowledge his contributions to our community and wish him continued success and the enjoyment of retirement. Congratulations. And I will go ahead and motion that we would approve such a thing.
And I will second.
Board, if I may make a statement real fast. I want to thank Steve for all of his years of service. I told him early on that I'm the fortunate administrator that gets to be here when he leaves, but I know he's done tremendous things for this community. I also want to thank Steve's family. It's hard to be married to or have a family member that is a police officer and you don't know if they're going to come home every night. And so we appreciate everything that you all have done and sacrificed along the way. But I truly, genuinely feel that Steve's contributions to our community has made Colerain a better place, and I'm proud that he was a member of our department.
Oh, sweet.
Absolutely. So we have another commendation. This is from, oh, I'm sorry, yes.
I have one comment to make about it also. Congratulations for surviving, for working for an elected board. You've seen so many people come and go in these seats, and we're the three that get to be here at the end. And I'm trying to think of who was there at the beginning. It was probably Ralph Sandoz and Joe Walterman and Patty Clancy, probably when you started. And here we are at the finish, 31 trustees later. So
Oh, my goodness.
I have no other comments before the vote.
Thank you for all your years.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes. All right. Now I have a proclamation from the General Assembly, the State of Ohio House of Representatives, under the sponsorship of Representative Cindy Abrams, House District 29. On behalf of the members of the House of Representatives of the 135th General Assembly of Ohio, we're pleased to extend special recognition to Steve Carwish on the occasion of your retirement as an officer with the Colerain Township Police Department. For more than 31 years, you've served with genuine distinction in the field of law enforcement, characterized by integrity, courage, and composure, even under the most trying of circumstances. Your illustrious career has been a model of professional deportment worthy of widespread emulation. Your impressive ability to remain calm under pressure has averted many a tragic outcome, and your confident, reassuring leadership will be sorely missed by many of your friends in the Colerain Township Police Department. Consistently exercising sound judgment, you have been conscientious in discharging your diverse and challenging responsibilities. Through your dedicated efforts and dependable job performance, you have earned the enduring praise and respect of the people you have labored so diligently to keep safe and secure. The recipient of such accolades as the Fraternal Order of Police Officer and Member of the Year honors, the Colerain Police Chief's Commendation and Life-Saving Awards, and the Secretary of State Combination of Valor. You have been a fine ambassador for your chosen vocation, and your numerous contributions will be remembered with pride and gratitude. Thus, with great pleasure, we offer our congratulations on your retirement and wish you and your family a future of health, happiness, and prosperity. Signed, Cindy Abrams, Representative, House District 29, and Jason Stevens, Speaker of the Ohio House of Representatives.
You want to pick? You want a picture? Okay, let's do your sign that, your proclamation.
Okay.
We'll give you a signed one. Just sign this too. I know these are-
What the administrator said is true. It is difficult on the family. I know I do a lot of talking sometimes when I'm sleeping. My beautiful wife is here to confirm that. And apparently the thing I say a lot in my sleep is we need more officers on the street. So we do, and hopefully I'm confident in Chief Cordy here. He will continue to build the department. We do need more officers, and we do need financial support. And hopefully everybody votes for the levy. We do need more officers on the street. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your service, and thank you for just exemplary service. It's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Ready, guys? 1, 2, and 3. This one, 2. Yes, please. All right.
They said that can go in your man cave. Are you gonna get one? Okay, there you go.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you for your service. Thank you.
Your fan club is leaving the building. I'll give them a minute. Okay, what?
Right, Board, so
Okay.
this is item C, which is an update on Fire Station 26. So we thought it'd be a good time, especially since we had the groundbreaking earlier today, to kind of give some background and some information to maybe address some questions that are lingering out there or answer some concerns that we've certainly heard over the past couple of weeks. And so that's what this presentation will aim to do. To kick things off, when you think about how we got where we are, this really all started back in May of 2021. In May of 2021, we released an RFP for a public-private partnership. We were trying to see if the private market could solve this problem for us, and that problem being that we had a fire station that was inadequate for our current needs for our department, that had some lingering issues in terms of plumbing and electrical and things like that. And we asked them to see how we could reposition our existing asset on our existing site and do it in a way that financially made sense. We had a few proposals come in, but the long and short of it was that they all came in with the goal of getting us to move the site because our existing site would not work. It's less than an acre in size, and it's very difficult to reposition a modern-day fire station that serves as many residents as it does to fit on that site. So that was kind of where this all started. Feedback that we got from that conversation was, you know, you could look at a few different things. You could look at staying where you are and acquiring property near you. Well, to the west of the existing site, there's a road, and you have to maintain ingress and egress to that neighborhood behind it. To the east, there are some high-powered Duke lines, and our understanding is Duke would not budge on moving those lines, or it would cost a large fortune to move them. Or you could go north, and from initial conversations with the property owners to the north, there was an unwillingness to sell. One of the other challenges with expanding on your existing site is you have to find a temporary facility as well. In my understanding from conversations with Westchester Township, who did that, they had to spend upwards of $1 million on a temporary site just to house their firefighters while they were reconstructing their existing site. So then we were left with two other options as we were reviewing this. One is to purchase new property, and really what we needed was 2 to 3 acres. Looking at sites on Galbraith Road, there are not a lot of large 2 to 3 acre sites on Galbraith Road. Staying on Galbraith was an important aspect of where our fire station was going to be located because it needed to maintain some of the same run time and volumes. And then we were left with looking at Colerain Avenue, and there was limited available commercial space, and the price for commercial space was quite high. So then we were left with looking at existing property. And so I'm going to walk through a few different properties that we did look at and consider along the way. Whoops, move fast. So this is Wirt Park. So there's a large spot to the front and to the bottom. That polygon there, it'll come up later again. But one of the biggest challenges with Wirt Park is that there is an existing deed restriction in place that we're aware of that states that if for any reason we cease to use the property for public park purposes, it will then be returned to the heirs of the Wirt family that originally gave us that park. So we knew right from the get-go that that was not a site that we could use for a fire station. Looking at Blanchetta Drive, there is quite a bit of property that we own over there. It's this contiguous space that I've identified here. Again, this was, and the reason we own this property, these used to be homes and apartment buildings that flooded a lot. And so FEMA came in and said, hey, your building floods a lot. We're going to pay you out so we can demo your property and leave it a clean space. There is a deed restriction there as well that requires that no structures other than recreational style structures be built on that property. So again, we had another challenge. So then we looked at Groesbeck Park, and we did a title search and could not find any deed restrictions. We knew that there was a previous grant with ODNR. That grant requires us to maintain the existing park shelter that is down here in this area, so where my cursor is moving. I spoke with former Assistant Administrator Frank Birkenauer, whose understanding was that that grant and the agreement was in place for 10 years. That grant agreement was from 2010, which meant that in 2020, any of the ODNR responsibilities had expired. So again, we continued to look at what was there. We knew that there would be a challenge with the youth football program. And so as we were looking at sites, certainly the baseball fields in the parking lot were considered, as well as this field, as well as space down here. But we realized that we needed to have good ingress and egress to be able to respond to calls. And so that was one very big consideration that led us to this area here, and you'll see an overlay image later in this presentation that shows exactly where the station's going to be. So ingress and egress was a big part of that calculation. So then we started to look at other things that would influence a decision. One of the items that we went back to was a strategic reinvestment plan that was developed by Urban Fast Forward in conjunction with the township and residents of Groesbeck. In that plan, and you can kind of see the image juxtaposed here, it actually contemplated having the fire station come back home, for lack of a better term. The fire station originally, I believe, was where the library is now. So it contemplated it down here. So the site that we have selected is in the same general vicinity. I mean, when you want to talk about distance, that's less than, maybe even half a mile. I don't want to do that math on my head. But then beyond that, we started having conversations with the library, and we said, hey, if we're gonna potentially move a fire station to the park, wouldn't it be great to find ways to improve access and to find ways to make sure that that playground is more actively used, and to find ways to allow the library itself to maybe even program that space? And so in the presentation, there's a note in here from Ned, who runs the Groesbeck branch of the public library. And this is after we did a project in coordination with the library, as well as side-by-side ministry and a few other groups. And it says that it's hard to believe that these are the same areas. We're already seeing more children playing in the park after school, which we may think may be a result of them feeling safer now because they can be seen, and problem behavior in this area has dropped off. As we were putting mulch down for the main path, a mom and two children who had been at the library walked right over and said, "Can we go play on the playground?" So this improvement was great. We believe that it's going to all function and flow fantastically afterward. And so that is part of what led to that decision making. After that, then we realized that, hey, we've got to maybe start having some conversations with Colerain Youth Football. And I wanted to point this out. This was an article that was sent to me by a resident from the Cleveland Plain Dealer. And there's a quote in there from ODNR that states, "There should not be any one group to have exclusivity to this area. We will be having a meeting with both Colerain and the greater the Groesbeck Community Association to see what they're planning on doing and to find out what they mean by having priority." So that's a quote there that really made me question. And again, this is a quote in a newspaper article. It's not a legal document, but whether or not we as the township are allowed to have any exclusivity agreements anywhere in the park with any organization, including Little Cards or Colerain Youth Football. As an aside, Mighty Knights did request to have use of that field in 2019, and so we had reached out to Colerain Youth Football at the time, and the answer was no, that they would not be sharing the field with any other organization. So this idea of exclusivity was there, and as things progressed, we did inform Colerain Youth Football in September of 2022 that we would be exercising our rights in our agreement to cancel the agreement. So for 13 months, we've been working with Colerain Youth Football on some various options that they could look at for where they might be able to go. And along the way, we've had several different sites identified, most of which are still on the table for them. So the site to the right was one that you saw earlier. That's the Blanchetta Park area. The site to the bottom right is Wirt Park. Those two sites together total over 2.5 acres, which is more than their existing field, which is about 2 acres in size. So that's one option that is still on the table, and the township would still be happy to host and facilitate the youth football team on that site. We did reach out to Northwest Local Schools, and they mentioned that they would be willing to have a conversation with them and find them sites as well. Would be within Northwest Local School District territory. However, the youth football team, with the help of Chief Alan Walls, who has really spent a lot of time working with them and lots of hours on this, found a site that they felt was better suited than any of these sites that we've talked about. And that's actually existing property that is directly adjacent to Groesbeck Park, that is behind St. Anne's and is owned by the Archdiocese. So that polygon, that blue polygon on the upper left image, is the site that we're talking about. So let me get my cursor over here. So this is the site that we're talking about. And if you look at this right here, that's where they are now. That's a stone's throw away. In fact, there are many people that could throw a baseball from one end of an outfield to the other for where they could be. Little Cards would be able to utilize the gravel lot that's behind it. They'd be able to utilize our existing lot down here for their parking. And so those are some of the conversations that have been ongoing. My understanding is that there's an agreement in principle in place. It's just working through the legal channels at this point. I also understand that the Colerain youth football team has been using that site already for some of their practices. So when it comes to site locations, they not only have a site that they're currently finalizing, but they have two options on top of that that we would be happy to accommodate them with that would, again, see them increase their total footprint and acreage available for use. Now, there were some various issues with Groesbeck Park over the past several years. I included this site where you can see some trash that's been left next to the concession stand for Little Cards. And this is a quote, so that's why it's spelt wrong, but this is a quote from a resident from July of this year, that Groesbeck Park is owned by Colerain Township, and it continues to be a problem area. I included that because we've seen a number of issues between arson in the press box, vandalism on the press box, vandalism on the concession stand, vagrancy, individuals breaking and entering, and additional calls for service at this area. On top of that, there have been other calls for service at the park as a whole over the past several years. If you were to look at the qualifications under the resolution that you all adopted last year for what a nuisance property is, we would have passed the number that would be required to consider this a nuisance property. And so one of the ideas here in having the fire station located on this site is you will now have eyes on Groesbeck Park 24/7, 365 by township employees. And I bring this up because while we house the police station here, the number of police that are present in this building at any time varies. But this site, 4200 Springdale Road, has been used countless times by individuals that are doing custody exchanges, property exchanges, whatever that might be, because they feel safe because of the idea that there is staffing here 24/7. They feel safe to come here and do that because they know that it's being filmed and photographed by our cameras in our parking lot. And so what this should do is help to alleviate some of these issues that we've seen in the park over the years. And then finally, I wanted to share this with you all. This is the general site plan for how Station 26 is going to be outlined. So what you can see here are several features. I'm going to try to point these out with my mouse. So here is a path that's being installed as part of the project that will connect this lower lot to this lower field area. You can see this existing kind of path here that extends down to the shelter and what have you. So it's greater connectivity. Right now, there's not an actual path beyond that that's there. What this has is public parking that's going to be available to individuals that are coming to the site. And if you've been to the parking lot recently, that is over here. The parking lot is in some disarray, for lack of a better term. You've got weeds growing out of the cracks. There are potholes abundant. So this will be new, fresh parking for individuals. There are some additional things such as Memorial Plaza with some nice benches and different things that are going to be installed here. You have brand new landscaping throughout the full site, which folks will be able to enjoy the additional green benefits. In addition, and this is to me one of the biggest assets of the fire station, is there's going to be bathroom access 24/7, 365. Right now, our existing restrooms at the park are closed from the months of November through April. Every year, we blow out the lines to ensure that they do not freeze over the winter and cause a water main break. By having staff there, there's a public vestibule, and there will be an area that the public will be able to access for restroom purposes. And then the final item that really adds some benefits to this site, if you look at how this aligns, this is the bay where the fire engines are going to be and ambulances are going to be exiting. And directly across is where we have secured an easement with hard earth properties in order to have direct access to northbound Colerain Avenue. If you calculate the time it would take for you to go down Clara to the west and north, that's a 3-minute saving in response times. And so that's a huge added benefit that this station will feature. Along the way, we've talked with our partners in the area. We've had lots of conversations with St. Anne's Church so that they and their congregation understand what this project is. We've had conversations with the Groesbeck Library, and we've had some conversations with the existing property owners as well. And so I wanted to provide that update to you all and would leave some time and space for any questions that you all may have about the project. I believe Chief Alan Walls is here to answer any questions that you all may have as well. But I do want to take just one other quick second, sorry I said I know I was done talking, and really thank Alan for his hard work. I think if there was one person that has been relentless in the pursuit of a location for Colerain Youth Football, it's been him. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to visit him or see him, and he's out knocking on doors, talking to property owners, and brokering and helping to facilitate what will likely be the final deal once it gets through legal for them to have their long-term solution. And I'm very proud of the work, the patience, and the diligence that he's put into this, because at the end of the day, I truly do believe this is going to be a win-win-win for the community in terms of a new, larger field that these kids will have, a new fire station, and enhanced response times. And happy to answer any questions.
I think you've pretty much explained everything, and thank you for a very detailed presentation, Jeff.
Very good, and thank you again, Chief, for all that you've done.
I just echo those ideas. It's, thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Board. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing for Zoning Commission Case ZA 2023.12. This is a zoning text amendment to prohibit recreational marijuana. Development Director David Miller is here to introduce the item.
Good evening, Mr. Miller.
Good evening, Board. So in your packet, well, I guess we probably should, you want to open the public hearing first, or? Okay. I'll just begin just by pointing out that you've got a staff report that was in your packet. This was the staff report that was provided to the Zoning Commission on September the 19th, when the Zoning Commission voted on this particular text amendment. But rewind a little bit, in early 2023, the Colerain Township Board of Trustees passed a motion and initiated a text amendment to ban the use of a property within Colerain Township for, as it was stated, the cultivation, processing, or retail dispensing of recreational marijuana. July 18th, then, Colerain Township staff requested from the Zoning Commission a motion to initiate a text amendment pursuant to Ohio Revised Code. And then Colerain Township staff is proposing a text amendment to Article 8 and Article 16 of the zoning resolution that would completely prohibit the use of a property within Colerain Township for any use related to recreational marijuana. So August the 15th had the first public hearing at the Zoning Commission, and as mentioned, on September the 19th, the second public hearing, and the Zoning Commission voted then 5-0 to deny recommendation to you. So before you is the text amendment in your packet, and we have a public hearing scheduled for tonight for this.
So I'll motion to open the public hearing for Zoning Commission Case ZA 2023.12, zoning text amendment to prohibit recreational marijuana. And we mean by that recreational marijuana sales locations, right? Or growth?
That would be, the township administration would be prohibited from issuing zoning certificates
Okay.
for commercial purposes.
I
And
will second Matt's motion to open a public hearing.
Okay.
All right, so in the past, I believe our law director, sorry.
We vote.
Ms. Orge?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
So in the past, our law director has asked anybody that wishes to speak on this issue to stand and be sworn in.
Is that everyone?
This is a public hearing for recreational marijuana prohibition.
If you intend to speak, you need to stand up and raise your hand and be sworn in.
Yes. Yep. You're able to speak later, and you don't have to swear in if it's on something other than this topic. So.
Do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth?
Okay.
Hey, come to the
No,
mic.
just,
I wasn't planning on
Just-
speaking until I just heard you guys
Okay, just say your name and address for the
Okay,
record.
Sean Spencer, 2526
Okay.
Compton Road. The recreational marijuana thing, y'all voted that down. I don't know why, but Wyoming has a place down there, Relief, and they don't have any issues at all. It's making their town money. It's good. I don't, again, it's on Wyoming. I'm gambling, a couple of you might know where it's at, across the street from the Fresh Market. So I don't understand why you would vote that down. That seems like you're throwing money away there. That could be generating income to help pay for more police on the streets, which we desperately need. So you might want to consider that and educate yourselves and see where those other places are and if they are negatively impacting their communities or not. I don't think it would be. It's just my opinion. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay.
Hey, y'all. First thing, I wish there was a public hearing on this fire station and we could have had a better dialogue instead of people being pushed into corners. I heard numerous people who were there tonight saying, when was the public hearing on this? And I said, there never was one. So you get to present, but nobody gets to ask you questions and clarify the fine points of concerns. So I think it's very unfortunate we skipped that. But on the weed issue. Okay, so you're not going to stop people from smoking weed in Colerain Township. One thing I like about the 50 pages I had to read to actually know what I'm talking about this time is that one thing I like is you're not allowed to smoke weed under that new law coming through. If you're smoking weed in a car, whether you're the driver or the passenger, it's against the law. And I can't stand the smell of weed, so I am looking forward to that new law coming in. But I'm concerned that you guys appointed these people to the zoning commission. And they're not young kids, they're not even middle-aged. Many of them are, I'd say all of them are over 50, and they're probably like me, have a drink every once in a great while, but don't smoke weed and don't do drugs. And for them to send you a strong message and say, this is dumb, this is completely ridiculous. They compared it to the microbrewery and all the business we've lost because of that. This gentleman is absolutely correct. You guys are claiming that there's issues with policing and that kind of thing, when this actually brings revenue into the township. You get a cut of the money to compensate you if your calls, police calls, go up due to this problem, and you get the money whether you get the calls or not. I think it's hypocritical for most of you to drink, whether it's one drink or 10. I think it's hypocritical to get your buzz on, but then tell other residents in the community how they're allowed to get their buzz on. The biggest problem I have with it is when we create a community that it's like prohibition. It doesn't work. What happened with prohibition? With prohibition, all we did was increase gang violence. You guys are inviting the criminals who have guns in their car, who have killed people in our community because of drug dealing, and you are inviting them into our community because the supply and demand is going to exist. We're not going to get rid of the need for it. They're going to buy it, and since you guys are so short-sighted, you won't provide us a legal product that we make money on and that won't involve more children ODing on laced marijuana. So I think we're going really wrong. At the zoning commission meeting, I happened to be at that one, and your own team refuted, Mr. Unger, what you said, and Mr. Waller, what you said. You said you were concerned about insurance rates going up and stuff, And they did research and did a report at that meeting and found nothing to support that. They could not find any place that supported that it's done by the state, it would not be done locally. The township would not get a deduction in their insurance for property or vehicles if we do this. Mr. Waller, when you gave your speech opposing it, you said you spoke to many lobbyists. I got news for you. Lobbyists are not a good source. You don't want to cite them. You get a big F on that paper because lobbyists are inherently biased. They researched your claims about increased criminal activity and such, and they found no information to confirm that. So we are sacrificing money. We are inviting criminals to come in here and supply our residents with an illegal product, and we're losing all the money. So I think this is a really, really bad thing. I think we made a mistake with microbreweries, and I think we need to go in the opposite direction. I think there's a reason no other township has adopted this yet, because it's stupid. It's stupid on every single count that was raised. So I hope you do not pass this banning the marijuana. But the commissioners had a great plan. They all, I think unanimously, supported a limitation on the number of dispensaries. They felt having a bigger distance in between them and only having a few would be an appropriate response to your concerns and the need in the community and the safety of our residents.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing that no one else had stated their intent. Oh,
I think you have to be sworn in.
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Always. Debbie Hurst, 2873 Compton Road. I agree with Sean Spencer, Carrie Davis. I mean, this would profit Colerain Township, not to mention the health benefits alone. We shouldn't have to go outside our township to get, for anyone that it could benefit. I mean, people with seizures, cancer, even autism. I mean, this is something that would be good. And like Carrie said, no other township has adopted this. I mean, this would bring profit instead of losing money like we lose every day here. So, like I said, I agree with both of them. I think y'all should not ban it. Just really the health benefits alone. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else?
seeing none, I would recommend closure of the public hearing.
I'll motion to close the public hearing for zoning commission case ZA 223.12, zoning text amendment to prohibit recreational marijuana.
I'll second the motion to close the hearing.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, now we're coming up to citizen address. Now, Carrie, were you going to come up to speak with citizen address also? So. What I've given you is, I'd like to ask Mr. Baker a question. What continuing ed classes have you taken since your term began? We answer questions in administrative. Okay. Okay, that's fine. According to the document in front of you, I don't know that he's even allowed to be sitting here. He may not be qualified, because based upon his statements at the forum and for the election, he said, I don't even know where to get classes from. It's really hard to find the classes, pardon me. You are required to take 6 hours of classes. Have you done that? Okay, you are also required to report it to the state auditor's office, and it is not on there. And I have a public records request from them saying it does not exist. I'm just going to say, so for the report, for your administration report, can we do it then?
Okay.
Okay.
But it's okay. That's why I'm bringing it forward before we file for his removal, is because I want him to have the opportunity to respond and provide documentation. You are required to take the 6 credit hours or the 6 learning hours of service in your first year and an additional 18 hours of training before your term's over. So I'm just giving you a heads up about this, and please respond to my public records request about proving that you have taken these classes, because the state says you have not. As far as the park and the, what do you call it? Firehouse. There is no one who doesn't want to see the fire department get a firehouse. What I would like to see is a win-win. Since we have never been permitted to have a discussion, you are not hearing the options that the Little Cards president, the Little Cards parents, or myself have offered up. You guys don't realize that there are other options they have come up with for a win-win. Mr. Weckbach was called out by the Inquirer after the meeting today for out-and-out lying and saying there is an arrangement. There is no arrangement. It is a daily thing that they are being permitted to go on that property. There's nothing in writing. There is nothing in an email, nothing that allows them on the property. They just go and hope they don't get thrown out. I would like to see something in writing. Instead of you saying this exists, show me. I've asked for that record. You have not provided it. Let's see what else. But there are options out there. For example, where the baseball field is, which is directly in front of that parking lot, if you just simply shove the fire station and put it where that little baseball field is, then you can preserve the football field. We can fix and we've got people volunteering already to fix the concession. St. Anne's will still have their little piece of the property and make the driveway so it comes out. They will have to make directly along the fence line, and everybody would be happy because that field is not used that much. It's minimally used, and we could preserve the Colerain Cardinals program and serve our fire department. And just by having that roadway come out on the other fence line instead of building it on top of the football field. But that's an example of one option that nobody's talking about because you guys have not provided us an opportunity to present these ideas and show us why they're not functional. Another option was for you all to offer to buy the land behind St. Anne's. I think that's wonderful. We think that's a wonderful idea. Make it part of the park system and give St. Anne's in exchange the playground. That is basically a private playground for St. Anne's that is just now being used. We could trade them properties, and then you would be able to maintain your program. But we have not really had any true conversation. The Cards have relied on the township, their promise to find them a field. They have not found one because there isn't one. There is not an option for them. The fire department has options. And so I would ask you at this late date to exercise one of the options that's least confusing and simple, and adopt that option so we can preserve the program, so we can avoid litigation.
Thank you. Okay. So I'm looking for anybody that was talking on anybody's subject tonight. Okay, next up is Sandy Ulrich.
I feel like Pollyanna here. I'd like to thank the trustees, first of all, for letting me speak tonight, and thank you all for the good job that I think has been going on here in Colerain Township. I thank you for the people that were hired to clean up the garbage and the waste in our area, and for the garbage cans at the bus stops. Great thing. I would like to thank the Colerain Township Police Department for offering the Citizens Police Academy to the township. I am attending the 48th class now, and this started in 1998. So I think that it's been a very big success. These classes are so informative, and they give you such an insight into what our police department does for our township. I had my first ride along last Friday night with the police officer, and it was very interesting. This made me really aware of what the police go through each night they're out on duty, especially a Friday night. I would like to encourage everyone who has not taken this class to do so. You will be so informed by what you learn, hear, and see. The next class will be in early February of 2024, so think about getting online and applying for the class. It'll change your opinion of a lot of things. I also hope that everyone gets out to vote yes for our police levy, because our officers do a great job. They put their lives on the line for us every day, every night. We need our police. I either attend or watch the trustees meetings on TV. I am amazed by people who get up and talk about money the trustees make, the money that the trustees are given, and the brief hours that they work. These people are only going on what they think or what rumor that they've heard. People need to learn the facts before wasting time of the trustees and the people that come here to learn about what's going on in our township. Some people come to the meetings and ask for minutes, records, etc. These are asked for in writing originally, but they come to the meetings and state they haven't received them. And I'm wondering if this is just to make the trustees look bad in front of the township. As in any request situation, it takes time to get the information to the person requesting it. So again, it wastes time of the trustees and the people who are attending the meeting. There are websites that are filled with hate and non-facts, name calling, specific finger pointing at specific trustee members. People think that the trustees are in charge of the schools, all the roads, and everything else in the township, which is far from true. If they would just look up the information, they would see the facts instead of just going on what they think or what someone else says or writes. They are just feeding on each other's non-truths. Instead of working against the trustees, it would be so much better if everyone would try to work with the trustees and everyone involved in the Colerain Township. I am very happy to be living in Colerain Township. I grew up here and I went to school here, and I love my Colerain Township. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's nice to hear. Okay, Sean Spencer, I think
Sorry, I get a little nervous because, I don't do this all the time. Give me a guitar, we got a different situation. Our chief, and the name eluded me, the officer who retired tonight asked you guys, please put more police on the streets. You can do that. Please put more police on the streets. Please put more police on the streets. Don't look down at your computers and your paper and your phones. Look at me and listen to me. We need them. You guys can make that happen. You don't need to buy Sears. There's $2 million. You could have put more police on the street with that. Now we own a piece of real estate that I, as a homeowner, I don't want to be a darn landlord. Now I'm a landlord. Thanks a lot. I appreciate that. Please put more police on the streets. We love those guys. I think we might love them more than you guys, because we are seeing you guys spend money on this and that, like Sears, and you could be putting it to them. So I just want to say that. I think our cops are doing a really great job. My grandfather was a marshal of Indiana, so I grew up with that. Okay, here's what I'm here to talk about. The address is, by the way, that's awesome, Miss Aldrich, what you were saying. I talk to you online quite often, and you do a lot of things that you were saying other people are doing. Here we go. The address is 9936 Laura Linda. Y'all familiar with that? Yeah, you are. You aren't. Okay, at the corner of Laura Linda and Arborwood. Those people have mental issues. You know that. We pay for y'all to clean it up. Colerain Township, Rumpke, the police officers to go out there. We clean it up. I think the last time, 2 times ago, $8,700. That I paid for part of that. I did. I don't want to pay for somebody else's mental health issues and their junk accumulation on that. You can't. You go by Springdale and Laura Linda, you can see it. All you got to do, you all know what I'm talking about. It's there. I don't know why you let that continue. I go down to the courthouse, to the records department. I see they have not been cited. There's no liens on their property. There's no court dates. Why do I keep paying for that? Why do I have to pay for that filth and trash and their mental health issues? By the way, you have a really slick tongue. Jeff, you're able to take the situation with the whole fire department thing and make, the cracks in the sidewalk look really bad and the vandalism looks horrible, and make that sound really, really, really terrible. But then you're also able to say, we're doing this and we're doing that, and make that sound really good, like that's a good thing. Like, we want to go out on Colerain and turn right. Maybe they don't have to turn right every time. Maybe you should ride a bike around that area for a while and see if they might have to turn left sometimes, or they would use that other entrance. You want to give them the field down there that you said was FEMA flood management or something? Then I go down to the park on Galbraith Road, and I see you guys bulldozing over the community gardens. What in the world were you thinking? Community gardens. Have you been in a Mount Healthy community garden? No? Probably not. They got a community garden. They don't charge people to do that. They don't bulldoze it. It's always being used. Yours is not being utilized. You could give that park to the kids to play in. What was that called? Work park? Was that what that was called? Work park. Yeah. Give that. But back to the police thing. Put the money into the police. Quit. You're the only one that's a real estate expert here. You should know that this is not the time to buy real estate, especially a mall that's sat empty for decades. Don't do that. Don't do that. Stop doing that to our police force. That extra money you bought that with, you didn't vote against it, from what I understand. Y'all could have put that toward...
I voted against it to correct you.
What?
I voted no on Sears just
That's
to
what
correct
I said. You did
Okay.
not vote for that. You could have put that money for our police instead. Now we own Sears. Thank you very much. Go home. I'm tired.
Okay, Debbie, were you coming back up to speak again?
I could say I agree with everything Sean Spencer just said. And really, Jeff, talking about the park, Groesbeck Park, and saying it qualified, everything there was a nuisance. But the 9936 Laura Linda isn't considered a nuisance, mental health issues or not. We pay taxes on that too, towards the mental health. I mean, but I drove by it last week. I drove by today on the way here. The backyard is overflowing the backyard defense, the front yard. I think it's the worst I've ever seen. And that's not fair to people who buy in the area or are living next door to have to look at that day in and day out. And it just continues. It should have been stopped when the first pile or garbage bag was laid on the ground. Someone should have been over there knocking on the door and say, hey, we're not going to allow this. It just seems like everything is picked, we pick and choose here, and it's not we, the residents. It's this administration. It's the board. It's the zoning. It seems you pick and choose of who you're going to allow, change zoning, whatever. I mean, this is not the better Colerain. I mean, I've raised 20 kids here. I have 16 grandchildren. I have 5 great-grandchildren. Even the schools, I'm not even proud of anymore here. I mean, and for months in the past 2 years, crime is down. No, it's not. Just on my way here, leaving Compton and Pippin, several officers, shooting. Again, shooting in the area. This is every day, every night. We're on the news, 3, 4, 5 times a week? I mean, nothing really positive. Nothing's positive here anymore. What was it, 5 years ago when Ritter and Enderlees, they wanted to silence the residents. Enderlees wanted to, and I like Mike. I had great promise for him. But he wanted to write on them coattails of Ritter. And they thought they could bury us. They didn't know we were seeds. And look where that got them. They both got booted out. And again, there's promises made by everybody up here. Starting the flyers again in the mail. I see the last flyers from when they ran before. Those promises aren't kept. You were about trash. I saw Wallard out there working with us more than anything when it was about trash. I just seen a photo shoot up there with you at Colerain Bowl. Can everybody see me? I'm picking up some trash. I picked up trash here for the past several years. I pick over 2,000 pounds of trash up. I have paid thousands of dollars every year cleaning up Compton Road, Pippin. I walked from Pippin and Galbraith all the way back down to Pippin and Compton. 6.5 hours picking up trash on both sides of the road. And I also pick up from my business, Compton Recycling, all the way to my home at the other intersection of Compton and Pippin. I have to drive that every day. I get extreme anxiety seeing the weeds growing up the sidewalk and all the trash. So I would make the time early in the morning, late in the evening, and I picked up all that trash, and I paid to dispose of it. I used to leave it in bags, but some people like to tear it open and throw it on the road again so I can pick it up again. I just don't understand, that you say we can come up here and speak, address you all, but we're not heard. No one's heard here. Its decisions are made before I feel that we even get here and we even talk about this. I've been traveling a lot. I become a licensed certified caregiver for veterans this past year, taking care of veterans. I watched the meeting, I think it was September 12th, from 1,000 miles away. And I appreciate you apologizing for the outburst that was going on with Carrie and this board. You as the president, Ms. Ulrich, you should have stopped it. You should have pulled that gavel down and stopped it right there. I appreciate you apologizing for what happened. What I didn't like with you, Mr. Waller, is that you took that apology back. And no one made it of race against you or said you were bad for kids or anything, and we had a crybaby Sally thing going on then. I mean, it was ridiculous, unprofessional. As you all over there, you should, bite your tongue, hold it, keep it together. But really, you apologizing, I appreciated that. You not stopping the meeting, you should have done that. You should have spoke up and stopped it. And you shouldn't have took the apology back and saying, you have nothing to apologize for. But you did. I mean, a screaming match between residents and then calling out residents. When we speak and say something, it's saying, don't talk bad about us. But you all have
Madam
no
President, that's
problem.
time.
I was going to say your
You
time.
have no problem calling it out on us.
Your time's up. Thank you very much.
Well, I do want to introduce, I have been traveling a lot, and I do own Compton Recycling, but not no more, semi in the background. And Drew Hughes has now taken over, which, is he your next?
He can come up next because your time is up. Thank you.
You can come up and speak now.
Okay, Drew Hughes, please. Hi.
Perfect. Just to kind of switch gears a little bit, I just wanted to come and introduce myself. I'm Drew Hughes. I've since taken over for Debbie and Bob over at the shop. I see a couple familiar faces, a lot of people that I've met through the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm very excited to kind of continue what they've been doing here, keeping.
You can use it.
I know, but I'm
It's all right.
sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I understand. But I'm excited to kind of continuing what they started. For the last 23 years, I think they've been a beacon of keeping the community clean. Even though it is a very junky business, you drive by that place at the end of the day, and it's not really somewhere that you would see, that's been slinging junk all day, So I'm excited to keep the community clean, keep on recycling, and thank you all. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for, okay. The Amber Taylor did, okay, so she's, Amber Taylor? Okay, I didn't see her. All right, so Kathy Moore?
Good evening. I have a couple of things to go over. First thing is regarding the correction of minutes. The Open Meetings Act states that the minutes are not required to be a verbatim transcript of the proceedings, but must include enough facts and information to permit the public to understand and appreciate the rationale behind the public body's decisions. The Ohio Supreme Court has held that minutes must include more than a record of roll call votes, and that minutes are inadequate when they contain inaccuracies that are not corrected. A public body cannot rely on sources other than their approved minutes to argue that their minutes contain a full and accurate record of proceedings. What is the intent of this board to remedy the situation with incorrect minutes? I think you've ignored me for a couple of months on this, but I think our residents deserve to know how you're conducting business, and it just requires a yes or a no. Regarding special meetings, the Open Meetings Act states, when a public body holds a special meeting to discuss particular issues, the statement of the meeting's purpose must specifically indicate those issues, and the public body may only discuss those specified issues at the meeting. Discussing matters at a special meeting that were not disclosed in the notice of purpose, either in open session or executive session, is a violation of the Open Meetings Act. Regarding a public record request that I made in March of 2022, I have not received the requested information after requesting it 6 times. I requested employment applications for 3 employees. I received employment profiles. I was told employment applications have not been required since 2019. However, I have a copy of the application that is online. So, and it also states in your policies and procedures that in order, wait a minute, that in order to be considered for employment with Colerain Township, an applicant must submit a signed formal application using the form provided by the township. Applicant profiles are a resume to apply for a position. The email from the fiscal officer states that all applications are done online. And they may be filled out online, but it's still a record. Stephanie and I request a lot of public records, and I've stated many times to this board and other boards that the reason we do that is because we don't trust you. And we've proven that that was accurate, that we could not trust you over the last 7 years. I read a list of offenses at the previous meeting. We are holding you accountable. You have a responsibility to your constituents to be honest and provide accurate minutes to verify your actions. I have several documents that I would like attached to the minutes. I have this application for employment. I have this, which is what is submitted when anybody applies for a job, which is not an application for employment. For special meetings, I have two examples here where the notice of township special meetings, and it does not say what the meeting is for. It just says there's a special meeting. I also have township employee employment process 1.3 for employees to become or people to become employees, and I have two documents for the Open Meetings Act.
Okay, thank you.
And I would like,
Your time's up, please.
but I would like these added to the minutes.
Okay, we'll take them. So looking out at the audience, I don't see anybody else out there for citizens' address. So I guess we can move on to administrative reports.
Thank you, Board. I don't believe we have any administrative reports from any of the departments. Just to clarify, because 9936 Laura Linda has come up several times at this point, it has been publicly declared a nuisance by you all. And as we've discussed at prior meetings, within the confines of the ORC, there are very limited actions that we can take to address and remediate properties, one of which is to declare it a nuisance, then go through the process to abate the property, and then assess those taxes at the end of the process. That is a process that we have moved forward with on that property. We've done that several times now. And what that means is the tax bill is going to come due at some point for that property owner.
I'm going to stop you right there because we were just told that we don't charge it, and I'm looking at it on the auditor's website. There is an assessment for $268.80, an assessment for $16,827, an assessment for $1,107, and another assessment for $1,107. So what we heard during citizens' address that we don't bill these things out, and what the facts are about this far apart, Jeff, so sorry to interrupt you.
Yep, and on that property in particular, my understanding is that the bank that owns the loans on that property is likely foreclosing on it, which will mean that there will be a new tenant, a new homeowner sometime in the near future. How many months that is, I'm not sure, but that is what has been discussed. Presentation on Colerain Youth Football. One thing that hasn't really been discussed and gets to the point of why there has been a lot of public conversation, it was actually a direct request of the person that organizes and runs the Colerain Youth Football. They did not want us having a conversation publicly. They wanted us to work with them directly, which Chief Walls has done on many occasions. And then finally, I think what we're discussing here about applications is a disagreement in what constitutes an application. Since 2019, we stopped using a paper application form that you were provided. It was moved through the Infinity HR system, and as stated by the resident, that is what is used, that applicant profile, to apply for the job, and in our mind, that constitutes the application. It does not make sense to me to require someone to complete an extra piece of paperwork after the fact when the information that we need is included in that applicant profile as part of the application for the job that they are applying for. So I believe that Ms. Moore has been provided those records. It's just a disagreement in what that form is and how it should look. Thank you. Infinity HR, yes, is provided by the township. And that concludes my administrative reports.
Okay, you had your, it's his administrative report. You had your citizen's address. It's his time to talk.
I believe that concludes administrative reports.
Okay. Okay, so we come to trustee reports. Who of you want to go?
I'm ready.
Okay, you go.
We had a wonderful groundbreaking tonight over at the off Clara Avenue, and there's been a lot of things that have gone on in the last 2 years. I think this first came up in 2020 when we were talking about the levy that was on then, and Chief Cook wanted 6.5 mils, and we ended up going with 3 for operations, and we put off the other 3.5 for capital, and one thing has led to another, and it's been a very long process. So anybody that's ever wanted to speak about the firehouses has had over 3 years to speak about it. We've disagreed on some stuff. We've agreed on other things. We've agreed on the locations. We have, allowed the chief to tell us where the needs were. This is not 1950. That station out at Dunlap was originally, there wasn't even a water main out there, and it was just a place to park a volunteer fire truck. So it's time to modernize these fire stations, and here we are. And I couldn't be prouder of the fact that we have broken ground on 2 of them, and hopefully we'll get some work done before the cold weather sets in. As I just mentioned, there are 4 assessments against that property for almost $20,000. So we're not the kind of government that can just come rolling into your property. There's processes. We do follow the law, but we will get that money back when the house finally transfers. And the owner probably doesn't have the money right now, but they're going to pay it when the house transfers. For those who don't know, I am not on social media. There was a comment about some foul language that was used by a resident at the last meeting. I still apologize for that foul language. Somebody dropped the F-bomb, didn't like it. There was an attack on Mr. Baker earlier, and there was an affidavit presented to us. It starts out by saying, the undersigned, being residents of Colerain Township, Hamilton County, Ohio. I must have not got the page with the signatures or the notary stamp, because this is not signed. And that said, people talk about us sitting up here and having the advantage of incumbency, so I would ask that, and there is an election, and we can't hide from that, and I hope I don't step on anybody's toes with this, Matt, because you said no talking about elections during the meetings, and I don't think this crosses that line. But I would say the other candidates that are in the audience, please stand up, and I'll give you a chance to identify yourself. And I don't see any of them here. So, the advantage of incumbency is, when I ran for this seat, I came to meetings for almost a year before I put my name on the ballot. Some other things that have gone on is, as I said, we've been talking about these fire stations for over 3 years now, and everybody's had a chance to speak. Just some little local things. As you know, I always give out my phone number, 404-3057. There's a house over on Cornwall that's been in a lot of trouble and has fines against it, and in fact, that comes up for foreclosure by the county on a tax foreclosure on December 4th. I have visited residents all over the place. On Burnside, I've been past 9936 Laura Linda, which we've talked about. On October 17th, I sent you a note, Mr. Weckbach, that there were somebody dumped 3 tires on the side of Blue Rock Road. Those were picked up within 24 hours, and that's part of we don't like to go out and pick up people's tires, but we have a little litter patrol, and you were able to get them out there and pick that up. I do have some comments that I'll bring up when the motion comes up to vote for or against the marijuana prohibition. And that is probably about it. So I think that's all my notes until later in the discussion.
Can I go next? Okay, I just want to clarify also, I go to the OTA convention in January of this year and last year, and I have sat in classes with Mr. Baker in his continuing ed. So I don't know where she is getting that, resident is getting that information, but I can personally verify that I've sat in those classes with you. And I commend Miss Hurst for her continuing cleaning up, but she doesn't know for years that I and my kids cleaned up 275, and when we stopped doing that because it was on early Saturday mornings with all their games, I started cleaning up Dry Ridge Road. So I do, well, she's coming in the room now. So I just was, Debbie, I was saying thank you for all your commitment to cleaning up you are part of Compton Road, as I have cleaned up for years when my children were little, 275. And it was too early in the mornings on Saturdays between games, we started just cleaning up our neighborhood. So we have cleaned up our residents. And yes, we are very proud of hiring 3 labor litters to clean up everybody's. I think if everybody did, we do have Adopt a Street if you want to start cleaning up and getting, like Northbrook does, they have a cleanup. So if more neighborhoods did that, we wouldn't be having so much, how many, 2,000 bags of litters that we've had. So it is a problem, but thank you for taking care of. I would love every place to do that.
I know the roads I'm doing is county roads, but
But,
even they're short-staffed.
okay, okay.
But I've literally paid tree companies to trim the trees down on
Okay.
because we have so many walkers.
I understand, okay, thank you. I appreciate it. I said my thank you to you, thank you, okay. The only other thing, I wanted to wish everybody a safe and happy Halloween. So I just was gonna make it short, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Just an announcement that came to me, I don't know where it originated, but Saturday, October 28th at Gate of Heaven Cemetery on Montgomery Road in Cincinnati, Ohio, at the Veterans Garden is a commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War. It goes from 2 to 3. There'll be speakers, a program honoring Vietnam veterans that will be there, and they encourage people to bring a folding chair. So it sounds like it will be a neat event. Gate of Heaven is it's a gorgeous grounds, so it'll be fantastic. 9936 Laura Linda, I probably talk to at least somebody once a day about. It is the most frustrating thing I've ever encountered. But when Mr. Unger speaks about, we just can't go take their house. I mean, that's, you know, in the United States, property rights are sacrosanct. They're where we get all our other rights from. And there's a 300-plus year tradition, even when the British were here, of property rights. In fact, it's one of the reasons we decided to kick the British out. So it does get frustrating when we see something like Laura Linda that's a continual problem, and we just have to be patient, go through the process. And nobody hates that more than me. And when I talk to Jeff probably 2 or 3 times a week about it, and he's probably frustrated hearing me express my frustrations about it. It is a huge issue. And as far as I think the rest of my comments I'll save for when we get to the recreational marijuana, and that will just close my report.
Okay.
Thank you, Board. The next items are new business, and the first items will be presented by Chief Alan Walls of the Fire Department.
Chief?
Good evening. I have just one item for tonight. It is a resolution approving adoption of the Hamilton County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan, and we recommend adoption of the resolution.
I just lost it. I motion to adopt the Hamilton County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan.
I'll second. Any discussions?
Chief? 1,052 pages?
That's a big one.
Yeah. I don't know. I did as best as I could to get through like the executive summaries. Reading 1,052 pages just was a pretty heavy burden. I noticed that it's interesting because they plan for every possible contingency.
Correct.
I mean, it's interesting because they take out tsunami and a hurricane, although several years ago we did have impact from a hurricane.
Hurricane Ike.
Yeah, but I don't know, for people interested in security and how our government or regional governments respond to disasters, it does have some interesting stuff, and it has the kind of the goals that they want to increase, some things that that are future-driven. They want to upgrade the sirens, which kind of, I think it's always been, to people in my family, an issue because they go off when it's a tornado warning and watch and thunderstorm. And I'll be honest, I think people tend to just ignore them because I think it's a thunderstorm and they can do so to their own peril. So I hope that's involved with that upgrading. But it was an interesting read.
And to maybe elaborate on that, I believe they go off when the conditions are ripe for a tornado.
Okay.
So that's why maybe in a thunderstorm, the conditions are there and it's hitting all the right, scientific measures. But
Okay.
yeah, the two big things for Colerain are really around communicating emergency disaster response and preparedness that you can do as an individual. So that's one push that we'll be doing through this plan. And the other is to evaluate sites that could serve as mass disaster shelters. We currently don't have any facilities that fit that description. EMA is typically reluctant to let you utilize schools because one of the biggest things after disaster is this idea of getting back to the normalcy of life, and schools are a big part of that, so they don't necessarily like those being a space. So it's a big challenge that we're going to have to identify throughout this plan. It was the same challenge that we had with the last iteration of the plan, but really the important part here is stating that we recognize that we're going to work on these things and do our best to address them, because that then allows us to be eligible for funding from the state and federal government if a mass disaster or something comes through.
Yeah, and in fact, if there's a takeaway, an important one from that 1,000-page document, it's the fact that with adoption, we're eligible for those funds. Without, we're not.
We have a plan.
We have a plan.
1,000-page plan.
Well, it's, people go, well, what's local government going to do? We have it's a situation book. And it's just, if this happens, do this, call this other department, they have these resources. This department doesn't have them. It's lists a lot of different things in that 1,000 pages.
Right.
And the one thing I think we have learned from some of the past disasters, especially Katrina, for the coursework that we have to take from Homeland Security about just communication and how to triage the different jobs so that you're not getting multiple messages out. I think that the idea that first responders are looking at this as reflective decision makers is important.
Right. Absolutely.
That's all I have.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Hey, Board, the next item is a motion authorizing the administrator to execute an agreement with Terracon for site testing during construction at Station 26 and 102 in the total amount of $62,050. For what this is worth, this was contemplated as part of the soft cost for the projects, and within the budget for those items, we do need to have soil testing as we go throughout to make sure that the structure will be stable, and I would recommend adoption of the motion.
I'm motion that we adopt the motion authorizing the township administrator to execute an agreement with Terracon for site testing services during construction at Station 26 and Station 102 in an amount of $62,050.
I'll second that.
Discussion,
Yes, this is soil testing, and so that we can determine
if it needs piers.
if
or
it
how-
needs subgrade stabilization, or, and this is something that's very typical with any large commercial building.
But costs have gone up enormously with that. Holy moly.
Well, that's what you're paying for is engineered
I
stamps
know,
and-
I
and
know, I
testing,
know.
and
I've been through, that's a lot of,
no other comments from me.
Ms. Orch?
yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The next items will be presented by Police Chief Ed Cordy.
Welcome, Chief.
Item C is a resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement. This resolution allows for removal of uncontrolled vegetation and/or refuge at the following properties: 10534 Breeds Hill Drive, 10023 Crusader Drive, 3095 Lapland Drive, again 9936 Laura Linda Drive, 3045 West Galbraith Road, 3091 West Galbraith Road. Recommend adoption.
A motion that we would approve the resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement at the properties described by Chief Cordy.
A second,
To clarify real quickly why 9936 Lord Linda is on yet again, the initial resolution is set to expire from a year ago when they were first declared a nuisance, so annually you have to renew that resolution declaring them a nuisance if they continue to be one.
And as I stated, contrary to what was described during citizens' address, there's almost $20,000 worth of assessments on that property, and I suspect that we'll be adding more because I don't think they're going to clean it up in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I actually have it wrote down on my paper as well. We looked it up in the back. It is most certainly on the auditor's site. If someone is looking for it, it's underneath the section Special Assessment.
See, we both think alike. That should scare you.
Sent directly to me from Lieutenant Penley there.
And Lieutenant Penley does a marvelous job, and I've had a expanded opportunity to work with him on another project lately, and I'm just really impressed with him. He really does good work, and it never gets recognized for it. Do you ever tell him he's doing a good job?
Got Supervisor of the Year last year.
I think you weren't here last time when I.
You really
gave
do.
you kudos.
I've really enjoyed working with you over the past couple weeks on a project, so thank you very much.
I don't know where we're at. Did we motion?
Yes.
Yes, I
And we seconded, and I think we're voting now.
Correct.
Okay.
Ms. Orchard?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
All right, item D, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 3081 Glen Air Drive. At this property, there is a 2005 black Ford Focus. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I'll motion to declare a junk motor vehicle at 3081 Glen Air Drive as described in the board meeting packet.
I'll second. Any discussion?
None.
None.
Ms. Orchard?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item E, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 8863 Planet Drive. At this property is a 2014 black Dodge Dart. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion we adopt a resolution declaring the vehicle located at 8863 Planet Drive as a junk motor vehicle.
I'll second.
I didn't even know they were still making Dodge Darts in 2014.
There's a remake.
The ones from the 70s, if you followed them in the snow, it made 4 different tire tracks.
Yeah, much smaller vehicle.
Fun facts.
Ms. Orchard?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, board.
Thank you, Ed.
All right, board. The last item of new business tonight will be presented by Development Director David Miller.
So we had a public hearing earlier on the text amendment that would create a ban in our zoning code for recreational marijuana. So before you are 2 resolutions. This would be a resolution approving or denying Zoning Commission case ZA 2023-12, which is a zoning text amendment to the Colerain Township zoning resolution to prohibit recreational marijuana. The recommendation is adoption of the resolution. And wanted to read into the record the rationale here behind that recommendation, that the zoning resolution currently prohibits medical marijuana in all business zoning districts. The zoning text amendment before you will prohibit the issuance of zoning certificates for any uses related to the cultivation, processing, or retail sales of recreational marijuana in all business, office, and industrial zones. And additionally, marijuana is currently listed as a Schedule I drug under federal law, and passage of this resolution aligns the Colerain Township zoning resolution with federal law, as it does with the medical marijuana.
I motion that we would approve case ZA 2023-12 zoning resolution text amendment to Article 8 and Article 16 prohibit recreational marijuana.
A second.
Discussions you had.
Sure. As you said, marijuana is still federally illegal, and different states have different sets of rules on it. We're getting this out ahead of, it is a ballot issue in Ohio, which is, if anybody wants to read the actual language, it's pretty easy to be found. for the ballot issue, those that have not voted already. So it's still federally illegal, and despite what I heard earlier, I know car insurance rates, I don't know what this is going to do to car insurance rates. I know the difference between Missouri and Kansas, that the rates are much higher in one of those two states, because I know somebody that lived out there since Missouri had the marijuana legalized. We're not ready for this at a police department level or anywhere else to start issuing OVIs based on marijuana testing. There's no standard set yet by the state as to how much THC you could test out in a hair sample or a blood sample or a urine sample. This is getting out way ahead of where we're at on the law that would surround it. Medical marijuana is legal at different places in Ohio. We don't have a medical marijuana store because several years ago we had a resolution to not have those here. And if you'd have told me 20 years ago, when people were starting to really hammer down on tobacco, and now with marijuana coming up, how is it that it's not good I realize you probably smoke a lot more tobacco than marijuana, but it's funny that society's at a place where we want to start encouraging people to smoke marijuana. I know there's talk of a local money that we would bring in from the passage of if we had a marijuana store here, but one of the problems is people that are intoxicated on marijuana are going to tend to want to drive to where the brick and mortar store is, and I would just assume that they were somewhere else. I realize that you can drive around and smell it anywhere, but I'm in no mood to have it here in Colerain Township. So,
Well, on that note, I mean, I do agree with Sean and Debbie that there are medicinal uses for it. But as we were discussing earlier about who would get the money, it's not very defined who would get the money. Would Hamilton County get it? Would Colerain Township? There's a lot of things that are just not well defined with this law as of yet. So that's my two comments about it.
Okay, thank you. And so I've done a bit of actual research from peer-reviewed studies on this, meaning to get it published, you have to get through other researchers. So this is, I think there's facts and there's opinions, this reveals what these people have observed under natural circumstances. 2019 study by the University of Denver found that neighborhoods with one or more dispensaries saw increased crime rates of between 26 and 100% higher than those without. In fact, in 34 months, they had 1,579 additional crimes. There was a study by John Jay College in New York in 2014 that said that recreational dispensaries result in higher levels of property crime, higher levels of drug and disorder crime. 2020, the Washington State University study used Long Beach, California, and they found that property and violent crime increased in neighborhoods adjacent to marijuana outlets. The Regional Science and Urban Economics Journal did a study that said there's statistically significant negative effects on local housing values when you have a marijuana dispensary. And in fact, if you're within 0.36 miles of the dispensary, your home prices decrease 3 to 4% on average. In Seattle, Washington, they found a significant increase in nuisance-related crime. This study really, to me, kind of really stuck out. Preventative medicine in 2016 found that the availability of medical marijuana dispensaries is associated with higher use of marijuana with middle school students. And that if they're further out, they used a distance for it in the study. If they're further out, it leads to higher use among 10th grade students with the obvious idea that they probably could get a ride out there easier. You're right when you say that it could be a lot of money. But it's interesting because if you really dig down in issue 2, and again, I'm against it. I'm against issue 2. I think it's going to pass anyway. What we're suggesting here is not prohibition. You can still go buy marijuana. You can grow, I think the issue 2 says up to 12 plants, because you're not a retail outlet, so you can do that in your home. If it's legalized, you can use it here. You just can't buy it here. We want you to go buy it somewhere else. But what happens when this, and we've heard this, interestingly enough, from 2 different neighborhoods in the last month. We've heard from Simlo, who was concerned that that building was going to be turned over and the state would be in charge. And we've heard from the group homes, the frustration that we can't do anything because we've turned it over to the state. What this does in issue 2, if we decide to have a marijuana dispensary here in Colerain, is we won't be able to be in charge anymore. It'll be through the Division of Cannabis Control within the Ohio Department of Commerce. So we've now lost control of that property, and the same problems that we're seeing with the group homes and the potential problems that may or may not happen on Simlo, we're giving up a portion of our property. And from a macro view, if you look at this, it's incredible. I don't know who wrote the issue 2, but I got a feeling that it was marijuana growers and producers, because it adds a 10% upon the sales tax on marijuana, like an excise tax, or we used to call it a sin tax. 10%, I think, is the lowest in the country. Washington is 37%. Most states are between 15 and 20%. So even if you support issue 2, take a look at the numbers, because Ohio is shortchanging themselves. And that's an issue 2. And the idea that this is going to somehow lower taxes, the way the money gets divided is just incredibly complex here. It's 36% will go to some type of
Social equity and jobs.
yeah,
fund.
social
Looking
equity
at
and
the
jobs.
numbers right here.
Yeah, another 20% goes to drug addiction programs. So we're going to use the money to create the problem that we may have created. So issue 2 is kind of problematic. I'm getting off on a tangent on that, but the whole idea of having a marijuana dispensary in Colerain Township, we're not assured. They say 36% will go to local government. What's local government? Is it Hamilton County? Are there strings attached? I've never heard of funds that don't have strings attached to them. And I'm just not willing to sell out more Colerain Township property to the state. In fact, I want to get control of more back from the state. And that's why I would be voting against it, in addition to all the studies that suggest that it's going to lower your property values and it's going to increase crime.
So, Board, just to clarify, the motion that was created was to approve the text amendment, which would thereby prohibit recreational marijuana as a use in Colerain Township.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
And if I might point out that Article 4 of our zoning resolution, 4.3 on text and map amendments, lays out a step-by-step process on amending our zoning resolution. Step 6 is the public hearing that we have today, decision, step 7, and then effective date and referendum. So there is a 30-day waiting period before this does take effect, and that is time that citizens of Colerain would have the opportunity to collect signatures and put it on a referendum if they choose to do so. So just wanted
And
to
if
point that out.
issue 2 fails, it's moot anyway.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, I think it might come back. If issue 2 fails, they've.
Oh, it will. It'll be back. It'll be back until it
But we're
passes.
just getting out ahead of it, so any investor might realize we don't care to have that business here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. That concludes all new business. There were 2 consent items on the agenda for tonight. The first was a contract with the FOP. This is an extension agreement. Their contract is set to expire at the end of this year, and in case we can't come to terms, this would extend their existing agreement through April 30th, 2024. And the second is an engagement letter with Plattenberg to help us in the assistance of our 2023 financial statements and any audits related to that, and that is an amount not to exceed $7,000. I would recommend approval of all consent items.
I motion that we approve the consent items as described.
Second.
No discussions?
None.
None?
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
And those documents are right here for anyone to read
Next,
in the
next
agenda.
item is fiscal officer
Oh,
report.
sorry, I had to turn the paper. Okay.
Thank you, Board. I will just briefly respond to the citizen comment. A couple things. First, the forum, the candidate forum, which I wouldn't have mentioned, but it was brought up, so I feel compelled to reply to that. I did not make any statement about training on the website at the forum. And by the way, at that candidate forum, I was there by myself. So I had a lot of time by myself to answer all of those questions and be very forthcoming about it. Secondly, in regards to what was presented to us as an affidavit, I would just like to read briefly, the definition of an affidavit. An affidavit must be notarized, signed in the presence of witnesses, and the affidavit must swear that the facts contained in it are true and correct. It is absolutely vital that the individuals thoroughly read and understand all of the information contained. So, one, this is not an affidavit, and then two, it's not truthful. I wouldn't be able to be here each year without the 6 hours of continuing education that I have to do, and that's a minimum of 6 hours of continuing education. So, if there is a records request out there, then that will be filled very quickly because those are online with the Ohio Treasurer, and so I question the reasoning behind this paper, but I think we can all draw our own conclusions there. So that's really all the time that I want to take on that. So thank you, Board.
Can I ask you a question, Jeff? You mentioned those forms are online, so when you do your CEUs, you send them into the state and the...
Well, fiscal officers are required to do CPIM credits instead of
But
just...
the state has a record that you're in good standing?
And those CPIM credits have to be processed on a timely manner with a fee that has to be paid out of pocket, and that has to be done each year. That has to be done by the end of the calendar year each year.
Right, so I mean, my point is we wouldn't have those records, would we? The state would have them?
That's correct.
Okay, so if I wanted to see those, I would contact the Ohio Treasurer?
That's correct. And they are on there because I've seen them on there, but it would be under the CPIM credits. There's a higher standard in terms of the CLEs for fiscal officers.
I appreciate you keeping up on all that. You mentioned the affidavit, and I realize it's tough when somebody's attacking you. I'm pretty used to it myself. But I did point out during my trustee report that it's not signed and not notarized, and I gave the other candidates a chance to identify themselves. But you made a comment that you were at the candidate forum. I guess that's the one hosted by Waycross?
That's correct.
And why were you there by yourself?
I was the only one that showed up. I
didn't watch those.
The other candidate, who hasn't been here either, didn't show up.
Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't see the. I didn't go back and watch it. I guess it's still online with Waycross.
That's correct. It is online.
I'm still deciding who I'm going to vote for myself.
Okay. You should watch that.
I will. I'd like to hear what you had to say. I didn't have any other. I didn't mean to interrupt your report, but I wanted to get some clarification on that.
No, nothing else to report? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there another need for an executive session?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Who wants to motion to
I'll
adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
I will second it.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Ms. Runger?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Okay, we are officially adjourned at 8:47. Thank you.